Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 2 of Hot Mess Life Coach. I am your host, Brian Hogan, both a hot mess and a life coach. And this is the show for people trying to get it together while the world seems to fall apart. And in order to help put the world back together, we need to put ourselves back together. And so that's why today I want to talk about the art of self-gentleness. The art of self-gentleness is a highly creative act. It's not something that comes naturally to us. We are not naturally self-gentle. We're naturally self-critical. I think most people watching this, listening to this, would agree with that. You can probably all identify and pinpoint areas where your inner critic has been downright nasty to you, probably in the last hour, probably in the last 10 minutes, probably just now. And that's the thing. Gentleness doesn't come naturally to us, and self-gentleness comes even less naturally than that. But like all good art, self-gentleness is revolutionary. It makes us stop and gaze up at it. It's mystifying. It's countercultural. It's mystifying because we don't see it very often, and it also seems fictional. Like the fact that we don't see it very often makes it seem like it's not even real, like it's unicorns or free societies, something that doesn't really exist on this planet. When we see a person treat themselves gently, we're magnetized towards that because it rings with the chime of truth. It reminds us on some deep level below cognition, below thinking, below culture and expectations, that benevolence and gentleness are really subtly the way of things. And I know that seems hard to believe because there's lions out there eating deer and all kind of, I don't know if lions actually eat deer. I'm not a botanist, or it's probably not a botanist that figures that out. But anyway, the point is there's predators and there's prey. And so that might make us think, oh, self-gentleness or gentleness at all, how is that part of nature? That's not really nature's way. But I believe that it is. I believe gentleness is really the way of things underneath all of that appearance, underneath all of that illusion, underneath what in the Hindu culture they call the Maya, the illusion of the things that we see, because it's not really the way that they are. As Lao Tzu puts it in the Tao Te Ching, the gentlest things in the world overcome the hardest things in the world. That which has no substance enters where there is no space. This shows the value of non-action, teaching without words, performing without actions. That is the master's way. So that's gentleness. There's this gentleness in the way. Gentleness is the way to overcome rigidity. It's the way to overcome hardness. And I guess that verse proves that I'm not a master yet, or maybe ever, because among many other pieces of evidence, I would shut up. With the master, there's no words, but I love teaching. So I would shut the heaven up and teach without words, but I'm not there yet. I love to talk. So I'm certainly not going to do that. But that doesn't mean I'm not working towards being more and more gentle in my life with others and with myself. The gentlest thing can be cultivated to be our own inner voice, the way we treat ourselves. The verse starts out, the gentlest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing in the world. And we want to make our own voice the gentlest thing. We want to make our own friendship with ourselves the gentlest thing there is. Because if we're gentle internally, if we're gentle in there, then that's going to spill out into the way we treat others. And in fact, the irony of it is we're actually generally more gentle with other people than we are with ourselves. And so it's very strange. Think about the inner voices or thoughts that come up when you make a mistake, when you mess something up, when you fail at something new, or you just generally exist as a total and utter hot mess like me. So with me now, take a deep breath, and then imagine a time when you messed up royally, when you failed epically, publicly, and think about what were the thoughts that you had at that time. If you're here with me now live on the live stream, you can go ahead and put some of those thoughts in the chat. What kinds of thoughts were coming up for you during a time when you epically failed or epically messed up? I'm never going to be good at this. Why do I even bother? Everybody hates me and thinks I'm an idiot. I'm a fool for trying. I should just give up. Better yet, I should never have started. I should never have been born. I'm humiliated and worthless. Yeah, these are the kind of thoughts that we think all the time when we fail, when we screw up at something. We're very hard on ourselves. We are anything but gentle. You should have known better. You should do better. You should just generally be better. That's the internal voice. That's my internal voice a lot of the time. And I think that's the general culturally supported inner voice. You know, drive yourself hard, push yourself to the limits, push past your breaking point, push, push, push. Just do it. Now, shake all that off and imagine a small 7-year-old child in the same situation that you just imagined yourself in, failing and trying and messing things up. How would you treat them through their tears and embarrassment? If you're here with me live, you can put that in the chat if you feel like it. How would you treat that 7-year-old child in the same situation when they're failing and messing up and crying? Yeah, things like, you've got this. I'm proud of you for trying. You can do hard things. Mistakes are a natural part of the process. I support you. I know you'll figure it out if you don't give up. I'm rooting for you. You're brave for trying this. You should be proud of yourself. Yeah. Do you feel the difference in those kinds of things? The kind of thoughts that and voices and phrases and discouragements that we say to ourselves versus the kind of thoughts and phrases and encouragements that we say to other people when they're in similar or the same situation. Why do we treat other people one way and treat ourselves another way? What is that? Why do we do that? Well, it's self-judgment. And what I want to share with you is how you can practice turning self-judgment into self-gentleness. But first, what does it mean to be self-gentle? It means to treat yourself with the same loving, patient compassion you would grant to your best friends, to your little children, and to people in need of rescue. It means to see yourself as someone trying their level best and to cut yourself the same slack you're pretty good at cutting for other people. But how? How do we do it? How do we become self-gentle? Well, an article from the Human Values Institute, this article is on self-gentleness, and they put it this way. Healing from the nonstop debilitating trauma we've all been experiencing these last 2 years. So they're talking about the pandemic here, but this applies to any time in your lives and anything that you've gone through. So healing from this nonstop debilitating trauma we've all been experiencing these past 2 years is difficult, yet crucial for our ongoing sanity and wellness. How do we do it? Making effort repeatedly and regularly to be kind and gentle to ourselves is how we start. What does self-kindness and self-gentleness look like? At the end of the day, remember not only the things that didn't go well, but also those that went well. Celebrate and pat yourself on the back without getting puffed up. Yeah, that's a huge part. There's a little more of this quote, and I'll get to it in a minute, but celebrating, we have such a problem in this culture with thinking that we're being arrogant and strutting our stuff just because we want to celebrate a win or a victory. You have every right to celebrate your own wins and victories the same way you would celebrate the wins and victories gladly of your best friend, of your little children, or of people in need of rescue. It's the same thing. We're just talking about the goose and the gander here. And we're the gander, and we got to start treating the gander just as well as we treat the goose or the geese or the gooses. Okay, so the quote goes on to say, when you notice self-criticism, remember you don't own that attitude. It was imposed upon you when you were a kid. You're a girl, you can't do that. Or you're not smart, or not pretty, or not agile. Hearing this again and again, we started to believe it and own it. But remember, it is not yours. Return it to the imaginary trash can and put the lid back on. Tight. End quote. So that's what the Human Values Institute has to say about self-gentleness. And so what they're getting at there is that there's a repeated effort, a consistency, like the same way you do reps at a gym, but this time you're not doing something impactful like lifting weights. You're doing the opposite. You're doing something gentle by lifting a weight off your shoulders. You're letting the weight come off and you're saying, I'm doing my best. I've tried my hardest. I'm able to keep showing up. I deserve rest. I'm okay right now. So as I like to in this program, sometimes I like to visit the science and see what does the science have to say on certain topics. Well, in this case, there is very little science on gentleness and even littler science on self-gentleness. According to an article in Psychology Today that I found by psychologist Ryan M. McNimick, there is very little scientific inquiry into gentleness, which is crazy to me considering how powerful gentleness actually is. Like the Tao Te Ching says, the gentlest thing overcomes the hardest thing. Like there's really some truth to that. And I'll get into a little bit more about that later. But if you think about like water is the softest, most pliable, most gentle thing we have. And yet it carves out riverbeds. It smooths over jagged rocks with its gentle, consistent way about it. Gentle and consistent equals transformation. I wish I'd put that as a little caption here because that's good. Gentleness plus consistency equals transformation, okay? Keep that in mind as we go through this. So here's what the scant scientific literature does seem to suggest. It suggests, according to psychologist Ryan M. McNimick, that gentleness involves being down to earth, which is humility, having a quiet ego, being quick to let things go, which is about forgiveness, having a soft and supportive demeanor, which is about kindness, and being oriented toward the other, which is also about kindness. So you can see that humility, forgiveness, and kindness are all attributes of gentleness. And humility, forgiveness, and kindness have been a little bit more studied in the scientific literature. And the broad strokes of what has been discovered through the research, the qualitative research done into these areas, is that people with this type of humble, forgiving, kind disposition have fewer health problems and live longer. That's the bottom line. Okay, so if you want to unlock the keys and secrets to longevity, it starts with being gentle, both with yourself and with other people. We can shed off this work a day, this dog eat dog thing, and move into a thing of like, hey, there's enough for you, there's enough for me, it's all going to be okay, we're all trying our best. And if people aren't trying their best, we're going to forgive them for it. And doesn't mean we have to keep them in our lives. We can move away from things that are toxic for us, but we can move away in a stance of surrender, in a stance of internal freedom. Forgiveness is not for you. I mean, forgiveness is not for them. It is for you. It is not for them. It is for you. It sets you free. It does not pardon other people. There's a episode, season 1, episode 2 or 3 is about forgiveness. If you want to go check that out, feel free. So this article in Psychology Today goes on to say, give some sort of poetical examples of gentleness. Gentleness is seen in the handling of adversity with a calm, even-handedness. It's seen in the soft nature of how people act when they are around other people. It's witnessed in the sweet reverence for wildlife and all of its forms. Think Snow White and the birds just like landing on her shoulder. Or, you know, my life coach mentor, Martha Beck, talks about how she learned from a horse trainer about how to join up with horses. And when you become internally calm and you start to speak their language, the horse will come and put its head on your shoulder and sort of join up with you, and as like an observable sort of manifestation of gentleness, the gentleness you're showing towards that other being. So gentleness is observed in the slow turn of one's own head to feel the wind touch their cheek. It's the getting down on one knee to listen to a child and look them in the eye. So all of these things, gentleness, it's about slowing down. It's about inviting in the peace that is available to us at any time, even in the midst of war, because we've all been involved in perpetual war since we've been alive. There has been perpetual war on this planet and in this country since before I was born. And yet we can find peace. We can still all individually find within us a peace. And if you want to change the world, as Don Miguel Ruiz says in the Toltec shaman and practitioner who wrote the 4 Agreements and a slew of other wonderful books, it starts with changing your world. Changing your internal world is the best contribution you can make to changing the world at large. Because when you change your internal world, the reflections in the outer world rise up to meet you, and ripple by ripple by ripple, the world starts to change. When we look to change other people in order for the world to change, that's out of scarcity, that's out of fear, that's out of control. But when we look to change ourselves, that leads to freedom, that leads to peace. And then that leads to changes in the outer world without us having to control or try or force or push. So here's another verse from the Tao Te Ching. Nothing in the world, and we touched on this briefly a minute ago, nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet, for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. The soft overcomes the hard. The gentle overcomes the rigid. Everyone knows this is true, but few can put it into practice. Therefore, the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. Evil cannot enter his heart because he has given up helping. He is people's greatest help. True words seem paradoxical. So that's what Lao Tzu, ancient wise person from thousands of years ago, has to say about gentleness. The part that I love the most is the soft overcomes the hard, the gentle overcomes the rigid. Think about that for a minute. The gentle overcomes the rigid. So when you're rigidly in your own self, talking about self-gentleness now here, you're like, oh, I messed that up. Oh, I screwed that up. Oh, I should have done better. I should be doing better. I should be over this by now. That's such rigidness, which is not at all how you would ever treat anyone else in the same situation. You'd have your arm around their shoulder. You'd rub their back. You'd say, it's okay. We'll get through this. I'm here for you. We'll get through this together. So much like my life coach and the horse, that she learned to join up with her and rest its head on her shoulder, we want to join up with the parts of us that are suffering. The parts of us that are condemning now can become the self-gentle parts and join up with the parts that are suffering, instead of alienating and condemning them, because we would never condemn other people in that way. So part of the way to switch that self-condemning voice into a self-gentle voice is consistency and practice. It also says the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. That's a reminder that sorrow is going to strike us all. But when you're being self-gentle with yourself, it's like you can be saying, it's okay to cry. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to let this out. It's okay to fall apart. We have to know when to hold ourselves together, and we have to know when to let it all fall apart. And this is why self-gentleness is countercultural, because our culture would never, ever, not in a million years, give you permission to fall apart. You've got to keep your shit together. You've got to get it together. You've got to stay together. You've got to do it right. But that's culture. That's not our true nature. Our true nature sometimes needs to let our hair hang down. We need to let the ball drop. We need to let things go. We need to be okay with half our best, and we need to just keep moving forward. Not always. This is not an advertisement for mediocrity here. This is a call for self-gentleness in the face of a culture that pushes overachievement to the brink, to the max, to the limits, and we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker as a result of it. And we're getting meaner and meaner and meaner to ourselves while trying to be kinder to other people. It's not sustainable, and it's not going to work. So here's an example from my life. As I've mentioned briefly in season 1, I have a sugar addiction, okay? But I joke now when I say it with that tone of voice, but it's bad. Like, I really have it. Like I was drinking a Starbucks iced chai tea latte with 8 pumps of coconut milk, 8 pumps of chai, rather, coconut milk and light ice. You know, what's beautiful that I just realized as I'm trying to tell you my Starbucks recipe is that I kind of forgot part of it, which means the 2 weeks I've been away from Starbucks has started to sink in a little more deeply, because I almost for a second there forgot the perfect recipe for the perfect chai tea latte. I'm going to move quickly on past that part, because if I keep talking about the chai tea latte now, I'm going to want to go out and get one, and I really don't want to go out and get one because it is sugar in a cup. That's the point. And with my addiction to sugar, I have struggled with being self-gentle, because I'm studying clinical mental health, and I'm a practicing life coach now. So I understand that with addiction, it's not based on someone's weak will or their choice, and there's no shame or guilt in having an addiction. It's something that really needs to be clinically treated, either with medication or with some form of therapeutic intervention, like thought work or behavioral work. And but there's no guilt or shame because it is often feels very much like it's beyond our control. And people with an addiction are oftentimes doing their best to switch it, but they're not being self-gentle. Usually they're being self-critical, and that is going to short circuit that process every time. And so I know this stuff from my studies. I know this stuff from my practice in coaching. And yet when it comes to my own addiction to sugar, I haven't put any of that into practice, or until recently I wasn't. I am now lately, which is I think why I'm making progress with my sugar addiction. But I wasn't self-gentle at all. I was like, Ryan, it's just sugar. Why are you such a wuss? Why are you so weak? Why can't you just get a hold of yourself? You're in your 40s. You're a grown ass adult. Like, you're still addicted to kids cereal. Like, what the, get a grip. That's not self-gentle at all. And that is not at all what I would say to one of my clients who was struggling with the exact same addiction. And I would mean it sincerely when talking to my clients, hang up the phone and then tell myself the opposite. Well, yeah, that's good for the goose. They deserve your empathy and your love and your kindness and peace, and they deserve to prosper. You weak little simp, you deserve your own condemnation and your own scowl. That's how I perfected my internal scowl. But that's not how it works. That's not going to accomplish anything. So what I've been doing lately is allowing myself not sugar. I actually made a resolution. I don't think resolutions generally work, but I just wanted to, for the year, I'm in an addictions class in my counseling program. And one of the assignments is to give something up for 7 weeks. So that dovetailed nicely with New Year's because the class started on January 2nd. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to give up sugar. And I'm hoping it'll last past the 7 weeks. But so far I'm on day 12 and I have had no refined sugar, like not even in like jarred tomato sauce or anything. And it has been hard at times. There have been times like last night or 2 nights ago, I don't know, really recently, last night or the night before, there was a leak in our kitchen and it all was leaking down into this room. This room where I'm in is below the kitchen. And there was like 6 different drops of water. I had to run around the house, get buckets, plug up all the leaks. And I was so stressed out, so stressed after that. And we have an ice cream cake in the freezer from my nephew's birthday party last week. And my sister turns to me after the leak thing is sort of taken care of and the bucket, everything's dripping into buckets now. She says, should we just eat a bunch of this ice cream cake? And everything inside of me was like, yes, we should. That's exactly what we should do. But I said, no, I do not want to eat the ice cream cake. Don't ask me about sugar. Probably a little more sternly than I needed to, because I really don't want anyone asking me about sugar in this delicate beginning phase I'm in. And then I walked downstairs, shut the door, and went to sleep. And I had to be self-gentle with myself, though, is the point here. Like there, it's a struggle to overcome an addiction. It's anything that's a struggle for you, whether it's an addiction or anything else, deserves your self-gentleness. And as I've been practicing the art of self-gentleness over the last 2 weeks, it has actually helped me to continue to distance myself from sugar. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to be perfect with no sugar for the whole year, but I'm not saying I'm not going to be. I'm going to try to be, but I'm not going to have guilt or shame if there's a foible, if there's a screw up, if I fail. Failing is feedback. It's temporary. It teaches you something, and then you get back on the horse. And that's exactly the way we treat other people when they're trying to achieve a goal or trying to overcome a struggle. And we have to, if we want to master the art of self-gentleness, we have to learn to treat ourselves that way too. So I want to give you all an exercise that you can do in addition to the practice we did at the very beginning of the episode today, where you imagined all the awful thoughts that go through your head when you fail. And then I had to imagine someone else in the same failure situation and all the compassionate thoughts you would beam towards them, all the thoughts of support. That's one brilliant exercise you can do to anchor in and wire in self-gentleness in your life. Here's another. And this one's just a more deliberate thing that you can do for 10 minutes a day. So spend 10 minutes a day. This is adapted from an exercise in a book by Martha Beck, my favorite life coach, called The 4-Day Win. It's actually, the book centers on weight loss, but the exercise itself does not need to center on weight loss. And so that's why I've adapted the exercise slightly. So what you do is you find a comfortable, quiet space, like right over there in that back corner, that I don't know if you can see what's back there, but that's my meditation area. I've got vision boards back there and like a pile, like a nest of blankets and pillows all around. And that's where I sit and meditate. And so find a spot like that. It doesn't have to be that swanky or whatever. Like I'm a little bougie with my meditation corner, whatever. But you just find any place that you love, any place where you feel totally at peace. It could be your favorite spot on the couch. It could be in the park under a tree, whatever is like your favorite, safe, comfy space. And you go there, but make sure it's one easily accessible, not the park across town that you can only get to twice a month. Find a space that fits that bill or checks off most of those boxes that you can go to every single day. Go to the space where you won't be disturbed. And for 10 minutes, and you can set a timer so that you know you can handle this and then it doesn't have to go on, and you can get right back to your routine. And recite some peace-bringing mantras. So for 10 minutes, you're reciting these peace-bringing mantras, and I'm going to give you a list of mantras here in a second. And as you recite them, what you're looking for, it's not just rote. You're not just saying these words. You stay present, you keep breathing, and as you recite the mantras, you keep doing this until you feel your body relax. You feel your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, your brow unfurrows, whatever it is for you, that you can feel that it's working a little bit and your breath might change. That's the sign of your inner critic trying to join up with the part of you that's suffering in a more self-gentle way, similar to the way the horse joins up with the life coach. So 10 minutes a day, reciting peace-bringing mantras while focusing on your breathing and your muscles and your body, and allowing it to cause you to relax and to slow your breathing and to just to deepen your presence. And as you do that, you will start to realize that your inner dialogue will change to be one more self-gentle, because you, in those 10 minutes, what you're doing is you're being gentle with yourself by reciting these gentleness mantras. So here are some of the mantras for you, and you can jot these down if you want to, or you can re-listen to this. I deserve my own kindness. What I've been through is a lot, and I deserve a break. I'm going to be okay. It is okay. I am okay. I'm trying my best, and that is enough right now. It is always enough. I am enough. Or some from Martha, everything is okay. I don't have to do one single thing for the next 10 minutes. I love that one because it grounds you into the place where you are. You're in this 10-minute cocoon for yourself. I can handle this moment, and I don't have to handle anything else. Struggling not to be the person I am right now is pointless and useless. If I never changed a thing, the world would keep revolving, and resolving. Freudian slip, but I think it's true. If I never changed a thing, the world would keep revolving and resolving. It's all right to rest. It's all right to rest. So that's the exercise. And if you want to, you can practice this self-gentleness exercise for 10 minutes a day. And then let me know, come back to this episode, come back to this thumbnail, and let me know in the comments how it's going for you, how things are working for you, and what benefits self-gentleness is leading to in your life. Because I promise you, the self-gentle part of you and the self-critic part of you are the same part. They have this motive of wanting what's best for you. And we've been taught by culture to get what's best for us through self-criticism. But that part, if you were to tune in and ask it, it would rather be self-gentle. And so we just need to teach it how. Teaching it how to be self-gentle so that the softest thing can overcome the hardest thing. So that the soft, self-gentle inner part of you can overcome your inner struggles, and the self-critic is no longer needed. He can go on vacation and he can become the self-gentle part. He, she, it, or they can become the self-gentle part. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here and so much for watching. I really appreciate that. And if you know of anyone who might benefit from hearing what you just heard or seeing what you just saw, then please feel free to share this with them, tag them, do whatever you do on social media to get this out there. And if you want to learn more about me and what I do, you can visit my website at thebrianhogan.com for more information or to apply for coaching. In the meantime, I will see you all next week for episode 3 of Hot Mess Life Coach on Thursday, January 19th at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Until then, be hot, be messy, and be blessed. Much love.